from Bio in 2015, graduating as the best MSc student with a record PhD of 4.81. Wow. He then pursued a PhD in human anatomy at Bio University at Ahmadu Bello University, and he completed in a record 3 years so, and head of the Department of Anatomy at the same institution. He served in numerous leadership roles, including Deputy Dean of the Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences, level coordinator for several programs, and the chairman of the Association of Specialist Medical Doctors in Academia. Dr. Yusuf's academic and clinical excellence has earned him several awards, including Best MSc Student and Best PhD Student, Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences. He is also a visiting scholar and external at several prestigious universities and among others. Ladies and gentlemen, our acclaimed speaker to the main session of tonight, which is the program, the main program of the evening. So I would like to open to Dr. Asuku.
Thank you very much for having me. First of all, I want to give all gratitude to Almighty Allah, who has given us the opportunity and the privilege to convince and for me to share my little experience with you about medical education. Perhaps it may improve and ease the journey which you are in presently. My appreciation similarly to the EXCOs of the Nigeria Medical Student Association for selecting me as the choice lecturer for this very, very important interaction. First of all, we all know that medical school is an interesting and unique institution of learning that aims to harness both prerequisite for success. Attitude and character must be harnessed in order to succeed in medical school. All over the world, doctors are highly revered and dignified group of professionals that will forever remain relevant as long as human race exists. Beyond financial reward, a doctor occupies a naturally unique position in the mind of every human, irrespective of his socioeconomic position. Looking at the above description of who a doctor is, it goes without saying that the training of one must require a highly specialized and organized training. Now, in perspective, what are the ingredients, what are the requirements that a doctor in training must possess? What are the attributes? What are the qualities that will ease the path of training of a doctor to be? So I have itemized many, and these ingredients or tools are not new in their entirety. They are not new at all, but I'm just going to list them and describe them in practical terms, how these things are applicable to a medical student while he or she is undergoing the medical training, in order to make the journey as easy as possible. Number one, as you all know, is hard work. When we say hard work, everyone knows hard work as hard work. But in practical terms, in medical education, hard work can be exemplified by the concept of threshold. You know, the concept of threshold in physiology, that for you to be able to produce an action potential, the stimulus must be up to threshold. So the action potential here means that the effort that is required in order for you to get the desired grade, or to get effort that is required, if that level of effort is not attained, that means the work is not hard enough. So we must be able to look at what is required as against the effort in order to reach the desired target. For example, you are going to write anatomy exam, and this anatomy exam requires you to read all aspects of anatomy. You have to read gross anatomy, you have to read histology, you have to read embryology, you have to read neuroanatomy, amongst others. Whether we like it or not, you will have to spend several hours reading, consulting your atlas, you haven't enough that. Simple term, hard work means you must be able to invest the energy, the required energy, in order to achieve the desired result. So a medical student must be hardworking, you must be selfless, you must be able to sacrifice, you must be able to put in the required energy in order to achieve result. In medical school, we used to say an average, I remember those days while we were medical students, we used to say an average medical student should read for at least 4 to 6 hours every day. These 4 to 6 hours may be straight, depending on your stamina, depending on your own peculiar arrangement, and it may be staggered, depending on what works best for you. But if you have a situation where you're a medical student, you come to class, when the class is over, you dump the books and you go about your normal activities. Tomorrow again, you are in the class, is a practical example of not working hard enough. So you must be seen to be working hard. Now, the next item is discipline. When we say discipline, the simple definition of discipline is to be text, and you should be seen abstaining from what you are expected to stay away from. For example, a lecture is 8 o'clock, you are supposed to be in the class by 8 o'clock or before 8 o'clock preferably. Practicals are supposed to hold by 2 p.m. You should be at the practical venue by 2 p.m. You are supposed to remain in the practical hall up to 5 p.m. You should be seen in the practical hall up to 5 p.m. You're supposed to do that. You must requirements have been laid down as the do's and don'ts of medical training. Because of the 'You be at the practical venue by 2, did your lecture, for no reason you decided to stay away from the practical. That means you are hardworking, but you're not disciplined. Even if indeed what kept you away is an academic engagement, but you're not doing what is expected of you at a particular time, and therefore the discipline is lacking. That you are also expected to abstain from certain things. Students are expected to stay away from examination malpractice. They are expected to respect their seniors. They are expected to stay away from hard drugs and intoxicants. These are do's and don'ts, and it's expected that every medical student will be seen always looking back and using that as a tool to assess himself. how well am I complying to the rules and regulation. In fact, our teachers then used to tell us that once one is an ideal medical student, in those days, they will never even ask to confirm whether he's obeying the rules and regulation of the university or not, because they know automatically once you're a medical student, the inherent discipline in you will naturally make you law abiding and disciplined. Therefore, we must look back and check how well are we complying with the rules of the university and with the do's and don'ts of the ethics of medical training. This is the second point. The third point is what I describe here as tenacity and persistence. Tenacity and persistence are so much desired in medical training because you will attempt several things and fail severally. But it is said that every step you take towards success, you will definitely encounter ups and downs. There are no encounters or experiences in life that are without hitches or glitches. But your ability to insist when you attempt and fail, your ability to insist and keep trying without giving up, this is called tenacity. And I can assure you that most doctors that are various disciplines and specializations, they would have failed severally, either at undergraduate level or at postgraduate level in the course of their training. But now, what is very glaring about them is that they have excelled in their various fields and they are being recognized and they are famous for what they do. And those failures have in no way brought them down or has it dented their image. In fact, it has made them better, because something you did severally and eventually you pass, you are more likely to do it better than somebody who did it just once and passed. So in the context of medical education, failing and trying again is never a good thing. What is good is when you want to fail and refuse to try again, and therefore you remain on the floor. But if you fail and you try again and eventually you pass, then indeed you have succeeded. So tenacity and persistence. When you fail, just tell yourself that that failure is just a step towards success. And therefore, there is no way that you will accept that defeat and remain on the floor. You will keep making effort until you surmount that obstacle that is looking unsurmountable. That is for tenacity and persistence. Perseverance and patience. From the little points I have highlighted, you would see that these things are not possible without patience. There is no way you keep doing one thing and somebody is telling you just continue, no problem. I failed in level 2, I receipted, I repeated, and now I'm trying the exam again, I'm failing again, and somebody is telling me to be patient. What kind of thing is this? Yes, that is the business. You keep trying towards that particular goal. Perseverance, a lot of hardship will be unleashed on you, a lot of difficulty that ordinarily, if not for passion and desire, if not for passion and determination, definitely all doctors would have given up in the course of training. But since you keep telling yourself that you are here for a purpose, I will be patient, I will endure. I'm not saying it is not going to be without pain. Many of my colleagues have gone home for holiday, but I am here reading. And somebody is still telling me I'm not serious, but I will keep being patient. My colleagues are sleeping, but I'm here reading, and I'm not sure whether I'm going to pass the exam. Even if it comes out negative, I will be patient. So this is what patience is all about. You have to be patient and be ready to pass through the ups and downs and the ticks and teens of the medical education. Positivity and optimism. Positivity and optimism is what will keep you going. That you keep telling yourself that I know one day these guys, these people that are teaching me as their teachers, as our teacher. One day, by the grace of God, I will also be there. So you must continue to tell yourself that positive ambition stick mindset of those and optimism. Another approach and another desired ingredient for success in medical school is for everything you do in medical school is supposed to be like a web. It's like saying no one has succeeded until we all succeed. No one has won until we all win. If you are an introvert, I can assure you that the energy you need to put in order to succeed will have to be in exponential figure of somebody who is always working in a collaborative fashion. They say there's a common adage: quickly, then go. To go fast, then you must go together. If you want to go far, you must go together. That means if you want to go fast within a short while, go alone, but you can be sure that you will not cover any reasonable distance. But if you really want to go far and sustain the tempo, then you must work in group. And this brings to the concept of answering questions together, to the concept of accepting one's weakness amidst your colleague. For example, I know I have weakness in biochemistry. However, I'm very good in anatomy. And therefore, whenever there is a group discussion in biochemistry, I humbly, discipline myself and organize myself in order to join the group. And I make it known to the group that actually I have some challenges with biochemistry. I'm only hoping that with my discussion and my interaction with you, I may improve my performance in biochemistry. So there has to be that family approach. There has to be that brotherhood. There has to be that we are brothers keepers. One part is strengthening the other. If we do that, you are going to see that you are going to record a massive success. So there has to be a collaborative approach. There has to be group work. They gave us practical in biochemistry. Please, have you done your own? How did you do it? Please teach me, explain to me. Then I'll just build on that. Just give me a template. I'll build on that. You understand? So these are practical explanations of how group approach and collaboration can be very, very useful in terms of achieving success in medical education. Socialization. What is socialization? Socialization means many of us before medical school, we had different personalities. Some people are introverts. Some people don't talk much. Some people keep to themselves. They just come to class. They are serious. They do everything that is expected of them, but they never socialize. In the course of socialization, you learn so many things. You get to know. Socialization means rubbing ideas and exchanging philosophies and personalities. Somebody's approach is that he doesn't read in the afternoon. Immediately after lecture, he will go back to the hostel and rest. Then later he wakes up to read, and maybe it works best for him. Another person will wait back and read for 2 hours, later go and rest, then come back again, and stuffs like that. It is when you socialize and you sample opinion from different perspectives that you will know which one suits you best. It is only when you have samples that you can select. So socialization will make you to sample approaches and opinions. What are the different approaches that my colleagues are adopting, and which one works best for me? So you must be able to socialize. You must be able to communicate, because when you eventually become a doctor, irrespective of what you know, you must be able to communicate your ideas. You must be able to express your feelings, no matter how excellent and intelligent you are as a doctor. If you are not able to socialize with your patient and interact with them, communicate, educate them, counsel them, I can assure you that clients are going to keep you at arm's length. They're going to stay far away from you. Socialization is a key to medical education, to the success of medical education and medical practice. You must be able to socialize in a very decent atmosphere, decent and professional atmosphere. Organization. Organization. What do we mean by organization? Organization means you must be able to plan yourself and work with time. If, for example, you say, I want to be at the library by 3 p.m., try to be at the library by 3 p.m. If there are no very pressing things that will keep you away from the library, try to make sure you achieve a particular objective within the time frame that you have set for it. So organization means, for example, there are 7 days of the week. I want to use 2 days or 3 days for anatomy. I want to use 2 days for physiology. I want to use 2 days for biochemistry, and I want to be consistent on this. I have chosen 3 days for anatomy, for example, because anatomy is bulkier. I have I have dedicated 2 days to biochemistry, physiology, and all that because I have looked at the course content and I have seen that those 2 days will suffice. They will adequately cover what I need to cover within the time that is required. So this is what organization is all about. You have to be organized. You have to be where you have planned to be, and you must be able to look at the whole volume of what you have and organize it in such a way that you have a particular time that you want to do what. What do I want to do at the particular time? What time is for what? This is the meaning of what organization uh, implies. Sense of prioritization. What do we mean by prioritization? We all know that what you need to learn in medical school, if we must do it in words and spirit, nobody actually can cover everything that is expected of you within the time frame. For example, when you come to 300 level, you have done all the regions of gross anatomy apart from head and neck. You have not done neuro. You have done embryology apart from neuroembryology. You have done histology apart from neurohistology. And now in 300 level, it's expected that you do all these ones you have not done. And at the same time, you are going to be looking back to see those ones you have done in 200 level. And when you come for 300 level final MB, is expected that you would read everything and questions can come from anywhere. So this is where the concept of prioritization comes in. How then do you organize yourself? How then do you approach this in such a way that your chances of success are actually improved significantly? Prioritization means I will now look at, okay, based on what I have seen, based on what I have heard from my lecturers, based on what I have heard from my seniors, what are the areas of emphasis? There are things that are essential, indispensable. There are things that are very important, but okay, not very essential, not fundamental. There are things that are just important but not essential. There are things that are not important. So there is no way you would go and start reading things that are not important or less important and leave things that are fundamental. As a medical student, for example, when you come to the class, you hear your lecturers talking about fundamental areas that form the basis for clinical practice. When you go to the wards in the hospital, those are the things that the clinicians keep asking you. They are indirectly telling you that those are going to form the areas of emphasis for your examination questions. And therefore, it is in practical terms, for example, it is very wrong that you are preparing for MB2. You have not read important regions of very vital clinical applications like the mammary gland with the clinical relevance of carcinoma of the breast, the prostate gland. You have not read the brachial plexus. You have not read the midbrain cerebral peduncles, you have not read corticospinal tract. These are things that the lecturers will keep telling you, and it's just telling you that common things occur commonly. Therefore, you read these things very well. Then when you have additional time, you can now go and read other things. This concept of prioritization is extremely important because there is no one that can cover the syllabus 100%. Even when we come for oral exams, whether in BUK or in other institutions, our experiences have shown that students who fail is not because they are not able to answer any question at all. It's because there are basic questions that the external examiner is expecting that for you to approach this exam, it's expected that normally these questions, the answers to these questions should be at your fingertip because they are fundamental. We call them salvage questions. You may have been asked some very tricky questions and you were not able to attempt. The external examiner will just say, okay, if really you are a serious student, let's go to those basics, let's go to those salvage questions. Then he starts asking you carcinoma of the breast, he starts asking you thyroid gland, thyroidectomy, recurrent laryngeal nerve palsy, he starts asking you carpal tunnel and carpal tunnel syndrome, he starts asking you femoral triangle and femoral hernia, appendix, and you are there, maybe you went and read the osteology of the vertebra, of the thoracic vertebra or the lumbar vertebra, you are talking about the neural arcs and all that. Those things will come after you have attempted and you have created a good impression that you know the priority areas. Because even in the clinical setting, there is a common slogan that common things occur commonly. When you are preparing for exam, for example, in the clinical setting, they push the medical students into the ward to go and see the patients. What are the categories of patients in the ward? Because they are indirectly telling you that those patients you see in the ward, they are likely the category of patients that would surface in the exam. They cannot go and manufacture patients from the moon or the Pluto. It is the same set of patients that you see every day that are going to be used for your assessment. So those cases that you see commonly are those cases that will definitely surface in the exam. So this is the concept of prioritization, and it is the same thing as smartness, because in the clinical setting they call it smartness. Many people work very hard but they are not smart. Smartness means you know these areas that you're supposed to touch, what they call dede. You know the particular part that you are supposed to touch that will improve your chances of success. Somebody will be there reading throughout the night, but he is not giving priority to the areas of priority and therefore narrowing his chances of success. The next point is documentation of vital information. When we were medical students, one very, very useful approach that we adopted was that we looked at past questions in the let's say we select like 5 years, 10 years, we look at all the questions that have been asked over the years, and you would, interestingly, you would see that many of those questions have been repeated over the years, just to buttress the earlier points that what is important in medicine is important. It doesn't matter how many times it has been asked. You cannot say a medical student should not read the anatomical basis of myocardial infarction because the question is too common. You don't want them to be able to predict your question. Whereas myocardial infarction, in the accident and emergency, in the ICU, out of every 5 patients that are rushed to the ICU, 2 will have myocardial infarction. So how do you deny the medical student of this vital information just because it is too common? If it is common and it is what is needed for him to save life, then of course, ethically, there is no way we can deny you of that information. Therefore, this concept of prioritization is something that you should hold very tightly and adopt it as a life-saving and survival strategy in medical school. Documentation. This means that when you read and you see those areas that keep popping up, read them, devise your own way, envisage, just assume that you have been asked the question, for example, in an exam scenario. How do I want to answer it? And answer it in your own way and write it down, document it. Those documented facts will now be your revision tool. When exam, just imagine that you have anatomy exam tomorrow, you have physiology maybe 2 days later, and you are carrying Ketmo around, you are carrying Gerosia around, you are carrying last anatomy around, the chances that you get confused is very high. But if you have already interacted with this high volume text while the session or the semester was at SCP, you are not under any tension or under any pressure. You have interacted with this text, you have seen the questions, and you have summarized this information. That means you can have anatomy exam MB2, you can have medicine exam, let's say M1 or final medicine exam, and you could just be going around with a 60 leaves notebook, 80 leaves. That means all the information have been summarized. While somebody is going around with Davidson, Hutchinson, going around with Bedo, these are very big textbooks of medicine and surgery, but you are only going around with 80 leaves, 60 leaves, and the information is condensed. Everything is highly summarized. So this is going to boost your confidence, because you can imagine you have exam tomorrow and you are going around with Bedo, you are going around with Davidson. What information can you actually assimilate from this high volume text in a matter of hours? But if you have already summarized this very important information, well documented, and you have structured it in your own way in such a way that just a glimpse at it will actually help you to recall most of this information. It will be very, very useful and instrumental to success. Now, you also have to be you need to have a very good rapport. What I document here as being guided by senior colleagues and previous experience. Your senior colleagues will be able to tell you, course, these are the areas that you must not ignore. These are the areas that you must put emphasis. You must be guided. If you are working in a very difficult situation, the easiest way to survive is to hold fast to those who have passed that situation successfully without any challenge. If you go to any town and you see that the town is in a chaos, there's a civil unrest, or there is an overt war, for example, and some people have been living in that town for several years and they have not been hit by a bullet. So what do? The wisest thing to do is to form a very strong tie and connection with those who have lived safely in that town without being casualty. So you ask them that, please, how did you survive this turbulence? How did you survive this turmoil? And they'll tell you the areas that what are the strategies for survival, what are the do's and don'ts and things like that. And it may amaze you that that information may be more important than somebody who is trying to learn it afresh. So it is very, very important to always interact with your senior colleagues and tap ideas from them based on their old experience. Those of you that are writing, for example, the first MB, it is to be very suicidal that you are going to attempt the first MB. You have not looked at past questions. You have not interacted with your seniors. You are just reading on your own, thinking that you are going to be smart enough to assimilate all the information and be able to discharge them in the way that is expected. Why this particular point is very important. You may have read all the information regarding a particular question, but it may be that in that system, maybe in that institution or in that department or to a particular lecturer, there is a particular approach or a particular format that he wants that question to be answered. So if you have not interacted with those who have attempted the lecturer's question in the past, you would see that the approach would definitely be different. If you are going to attempt a question in the exam, for example, for those of you that are my students, you would see that there is a particular format, there is a structure. The structure is the initial thing that the lecturer would see to even know whether you are likely to attempt this question correctly or not. If you are asked to talk about the gross anatomy of any part, for example, you have to talk about the introduction, you have to talk about the nerve supply. These things are supposed to come out in perspectives and in headings so that the marks that are going to be distributed will be easy for the lecturer to allot the marks to the different sections according to the marking scheme. This organization can only be learned from previous experience or from those who have attempted the question before, or if the lecturer is open enough to have a very open approach of disseminating the information during the lecture. I can just come and describe the gross anatomy of the breast in a haphazard manner. But when it comes to the exam, there is a particular approach that I want. And this approach will be easier obtained from those who have attempted the questions earlier. So you must hold fast to your senior colleagues, you must hold fast to previous experience. Emotional intelligence and creation of good impression. Emotional intelligence means that you must be able to read the expectation without mentioning those things out. What are the expectations of every lecture? This is what, when we're medical students, they used to call this eye service. If you look at it from the religious point of view, they say it's hypocrisy. But in medical school, it is not hypocrisy. It is part of smartness. That you must be able to read the minds of your lecturer and be able to predict what they want. For example, for those that are my students, they know that I have particular passion for clinical and applied correlates of anatomical concepts. Whatever you are going to write and you are bringing out, because we're actually training medical students to become doctors. So we're actually much more interested in the anatomical basis of whatever pathology you are going to be facing later in life. So some lecturers are very, very passionate about diagrammatic representation. Some lecturers are very passionate about using schemes or figures or things like that. So it is part of the requirements, part of the expectation of a good medical student to be able to read the mind of the lecturer. What's this particular lecturer, what are his expectations? What is he more inclined to? What does he want? What does he really want from us? And if you have this approach, you will be able to go precisely and give to Caesar what is for Caesar, as they say popularly, give to Caesar what is for Caesar. So if you do that, you will see that with little effort, you will be able to achieve much. So you must have emotional intelligence and you must be able to create good impression. Creation of good impression means you must make yourself known by your lecturers and your teachers. If you're always a backbencher, for example, he doesn't even recognize you as part of his students. When it comes to, remember that we are also humans, and before we are lecturers, before we are teachers, we are humans. Impressions, you cannot deny a human being of an impression. An impression is something that subconsciously he creates, and somebody can actually make efforts to create a good impression or otherwise in the mind of those who are his assessors. So you must make effort to create a very good impression in the mind of your lecturers. Make yourself known by him. Attempt questions. When it comes to practicals, keep yourself with him. Try to get clarifications. Interact with him to such an extent that he knows you very well as somebody who is committed, somebody who is dedicated, somebody who is very serious. And this is very, very life-saving, especially when it comes to clinical exams and when it comes to oral exams. Many of those oral examiners, they are at times very good. It's only that maybe exam tension has overtaken him, and somebody can actually make effort to create a very good impression in the mind of your lecturers. So you must pay attention to him. You must pay attention to him. When they argue saying that the student is very good, it's only that maybe exam tension has overtaken him or he's stressed up or something. And interestingly, the external examiner will have no choice than to work with the verdict of the internal teachers and the tutors of that student. Just 15 minutes, there is no way he can make an assessment as reliable as somebody who has interacted with you in the last 2-3 years. The assessment can never be the same. So, however it goes around, they will always fall back to our own impression. And that impression is something that you must build with your teachers and your lecturers. Naturally, a lecturer would want you to be serious, and at the same time, he wants you to respect your seniors and he wants you to respect him. This is human. This is something that is expected in all spheres of life. So you must respect your teachers. You must create good impression in the minds of your teachers. You must have emotional intelligence to read the minds of your teachers and know what is their expectation and give to them exactly what they expect, and you will see yourself excelling, because it is the same people that are going to assess you and adjudge you as excellent, good, poor, or very bad student. Now, mentorship and guidance. You must make efforts to have somebody who you are looking up to. If you want to be a neurosurgeon, try to get somebody who is a neurosurgeon, who is always inspiring you. When you look at him, he's your role model. You see something that inspires you want to be like him every time. And it means that he is going to lay down for you the practical step that he has followed in order to arrive at where he is today. So you must have somebody who you will communicate and confide in, who will tell your challenges. I have weakness here. I think I don't have a problem there. I think I need support here and all that. If you have somebody who is a mentor and a guardian, especially somebody who has excelled in a field that you passionately desire to pursue as a career, it's going to make life very, very easy for you, and it's going to make the success of medical school very handy. So mentorship and choosing a guardian of medical education. Also, second to the last, all medical students must always remind themselves what was the initial inspiration, what was the initial motivation that made me choose medicine as a career. For example, if, for example, you have an aged mother who died of renal chronic kidney disease, and the way she was treated, you were not satisfied, you felt it could have been done better. And if you were the one, if you were a nephrologist at that time, definitely it wouldn't, you would assume that what happened to your mom or your aunt or whatever, or your dad, wouldn't have happened. This is an example, a practical example of the initial inspiration. Another one is your society, your community is so deficient of medical personnel to the extent that it is community health extension workers that are attending to patients. And many of your siblings, many of your close relatives have suffered serious medical mismanagement, medical, quackery. And you decided that, no, I think I need to change the narrative. I need to go to medical school to become a qualified doctor. Think about those motivations. Think about those inspirations, and this thing will be your stamina. They will be your strength. They will keep motivating you. They will help you to withstand all the strengths. They will help you to withstand all the stress, all the things that ordinarily would have frustrated you. When you think about these things, it increases your stamina and it keeps you going. So always remember the initial inspiration, remember the initial motivation that actually brought you to medicine. If your parents are highly desirous of having a medical doctor and they have been praying fervently, they have been working hard, laboring, investing their resources, think about those your parents, how you would want to make them happy, how you want to make them fulfilled, how you want to make them proud. And these things can be very, very important in terms of fueling and energizing you and making you withstand all the rigors and all the stress that are inherently associated with medical education. Finally, last but not the least, all these things we have mentioned can be incorporated under one attribute. That attribute is called attitude. They said a bad attitude is like a flat tire. It will never take you anywhere. If you are very intelligent, you have a very sharp memory, you are hardworking, but when your lecturer talks to you, he tells you this is the right thing to do and you argue, an attitude. He corrects you, he criticizes you, you are not serious, and you frown your face. Why is this man talking to me this way? Bad attitude. So attitude will actually make all these earlier qualities, desired qualities, it will consolidate them and make them transform into success. There is a common slogan that if you want to see my altitude in life, you want to see what height I'm likely to attain later in the future, then look at my attitude. Therefore, finally, I want to enshrine all these things I have mentioned earlier under attitude. If you forget everything, remember that attitude is the key. You have a good attitude to positive criticism, good attitude towards reading, good attitude towards discipline, good at everything can be enshrined under attitude. If you have good attitude, you are likely going to attain high altitude and you are likely going to succeed in life. Thank you very much for your attention and thank you for the privilege for this interaction.
Wow. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation, sir. Thank you so much. This is one of the most wonderful sessions I've attended over a long time. I don't know how many years now.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much. Wishing you all the best. Thank you very
To
much.
have you on session tonight to the number of participants and they still keep on coming. So we are very sure that a lot of people have plenty things in mind today to ask you personally. So the floor for the question and answers are, we humbly request you that you should give us some additional time for proper time, sir. I hope that will not be too much problem, please.
No problem.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of the session, specifically the lesson of the day. So, now question and answer, and that will be done ethically by raising up your hands, just like I've seen some people raise their hands. From the people at the top downward. So if you have any question in mind right now, you can bring it on. And before that, let's do it ethically. Your mic and everything is blue. All right, so Mr. Ibrahim Zakaria, I can see you raised up your hand. So, what is your question, please? If it is a question. And then, if you have words of commendation, please postpone it for now. We are on questions and answer. Thank you. All right, Zakaria, you can bring in on. All right, it seems he's not available right now. So, Ibrahim Yahya, can you hear me? Please your question.
Okay, yes, I can hear you. Okay,
All right, you can proceed.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for enlightening us. My question is that
Excuse me,
about anatomy.
I'm sorry. Can you please introduce yourself verbally, please? We'll begin from that.
Okay, my name is Ibrahim Yahya Bora, a level 200 MBBS student in Byron University, Kano. That my question is that what is the best way of like grasping anatomy concept? You see, anatomy is very bulky. So, and once we learn something, then we forget it. So what advice, sir, can you give is those who are suffering from forgetting anatomic concept? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for the question. Like you rightly said, anatomy is bulky and could be quite volatile, especially in the early years of the medical career. But three things actually can help minimize that problem. The first one is in medical school, what you read, you retain maybe just 30 to 40% of it in the first instance. When you read it again, maybe another 10, 20%. You read it again, you can hardly take it beyond 70, 80% after several readings. However, if you approach anatomy with only one of these, you will see that your your your
Okay. Sir, you are paused, please.
when you read something and you're not very clear with it, I can assure you that when you discuss with some other people, you retain it better. When you discuss it with more people, you are going to retain it more. So they say what you read, you may forget. What you read and you touch, you are not likely to forget. What you read, you touch and you discuss, you will definitely not forget. What you read, you touch and you discuss, you will not forget. So read severally, discuss, and you touch it. That means you try to appreciate those things in practical terms. So if you approach anatomy with only one of these, you will see that the extent of retention definitely won't be as good as somebody who is adopting the three. So try to read whatever is giving you tough time more frequently. The more you read, the more comprehensible it becomes. Try to discuss those things with some other people who are likely to simplify it for you, even if it's in your local dialect, before you now try to put it in English language or in anatomical terms. Then finally, try to understand those things in anatomical terms. When they say the spiral groove, for example, you have been reading it, they say it's curving around the humerus and all that. You have been trying to conceptualize it and imagine it. But when you see it, it's very easy to retain. So you see it, you touch it, you read it severally, and you discuss with some other people. I think this is my advice.
All right. Thank you so much, and I hope it is noted. Okay, we have Saifullahi Bashir. Saifullahi Bashir, can you please on your mic and ask your question?
Okay. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. Sir, I'll go direct to the point. You talk many things and very impressive work.
Saifullah, can you please introduce yourself before you proceed?
Okay. My name is Saifullah Bashir. Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you please start over again? Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for all this impressive work. My name is Saifullah Bashir, a 200 level MBA student from Federal University, Dutse. So my question is, how can we balance medical school with extracurricular activities?
Okay, that's a very useful question. That reminds me of a very popular saying when we were medical students, that if a muscle contracts continuously without relaxation, it's going to lead to what is called tetanic spasm. I hope you know what is tetanic spasm. Contraction is supposed to be a good thing, needed for muscle contract, needed for movement, needed for the heart to beat, needed for the GIT to work. Is a good thing. But when the muscle contracts continuously, unabated, without intermittent relaxation, then it's going to lead to what is called tetanic spasm, which is a pathology. So the same thing in medical school. What gives you joy? What keeps you happy? You must create time to do it so that you can have periods of relaxation and refreshing of the mind so that you fall back to it. If you like, the advice is just that if you do those things in excess before you started the medical training, you can, for example, you can't afford to go to the field and play football on a Saturday, for example, from 8 a.m. to let's say 10 or 11, or every day you love football so much that every day you have to go to the field 4 to 6 or 6:30. That would be in excess of it. But you love football. Now I'm in medical school. I need periods of relaxation to refreshing my mind. Okay, let's say twice a week. I go Saturdays 4 to 6, 5 to 6. Within the week, I choose one more day, Wednesday, and that will be very, very useful in terms of refreshing the mind, and in terms of, because if you read continuously, you can also suffer from what is known as mental fatigue. Mental fatigue, the book is there before you, but is of no benefit. Nothing is sinking down. It's just like you are pouring water into a radiator. So in order to avoid mental fatigue, you must actually engage in extracurricular activities that give you joy, that give you pleasure, but you must do it within a very healthy limit in order not to over invest your very useful time into the extracurricular activities. So that is my advice for you.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. We'll take everything into notice. And then the next person I have here is Mariam. Mariam M. You can lower your hands and ask your question. You can on your mic. And don't forget, introduce yourself first. Hello, Mariam. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. And then, if you are not there, we can proceed. All right. Al-Kasim Sani, the floor is yours. Please unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and briefly ask your question.
Okay. Uh, Good afternoon, sir. My name is Arkasim Sani Mehula, 200 level MBBS student by the University Kano. So, sir, my question to you regarding the mentor-mentee relationship. We as a student, sir, how can we build a stronger academic and professional relationship like mentor-mentee relationship between us and our lecturers?
Thank you, Al Qasim. The question is very valid. Usually, the mentor mentee relationship usually is initiated by the mentor. In fact, a few years back in Bayero University, Kano, there was a central committee that was constituted in order to ensure that in all departments there is a mentor-mentee relationship. Let's say one lecturer to about 10 students or to 20 students. But over the years, for unexplainable reason, that relationship and that culture died gradually. But notwithstanding the initiation of the mentor-mentee relationship could also come from the student. Is not unhealthy, is not bad for a student to actually approach a particular lecturer and say, actually, I feel very motivated by the way you do your things. I would like you to be my mentor. Whenever I have challenges or I need to seek advice, I will consult you. And I'm sure most lecturers will be gladly willing to give their support to any student that approach them desiring them to be their mentors.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time. I
All right.
genuinely appreciate it.
Thank you so much, sir. That question was really a relevant one, and then yeah, it's really worth it. And then, Mariam, are you there? If you are there, please, you can on your mic. Okay. Abdulaziz Awalu, the floor is yours. Abdulaziz, are you there?
Hello. Hello, good
Hello,
evening, everyone.
Abdulaziz. Good evening.
Hello. So I am Abdulaziz Jaur Awalu Kano. So my question is, say you said in medical school you can't go alone. You have to go together. So like how can we avoid unnecessary and unhealthy competitions between friends and classmates? This is my question.
Yes, thank you very much. I think I understand the perspective you are coming from. Uh, Firstly, I didn't say you can't go alone. I only said going alone is unhealthy. You can go alone, but I said you may not likely the energy you need to overcome challenges will be much more than somebody who is in a group going in a group. So correct. I want to correct the notion that one can decide to go alone, but the chances of success are quite lower than somebody who is going in a group. Now, I understand that one of the challenges of working in group is that some people may actually have that feeling of inferiority complex. That every time we come for discussion, some people are dominating. I'm always a passive one. It's like I'm dull or something. But you must know that in medical school, telling yourself that I am not in a competitive relationship, accepting to tell yourself that, okay, this guy knows better than me is not a problem. And I can assure you that somebody who accept that humble position that, okay, let me learn and stuffs like that, many of them will definitely do better. Don't put yourself in unnecessary competition with anybody. Your desire is just to succeed. Whatever it takes you to succeed, it is better that your colleagues laugh at you, that you are always there. You are not always leading. You are always a passive participant. But in the end, you pass. You are happy with yourself. Your parents are happy with you. You feel better than for you to go with the big-headedness that I don't know myself and rubbish yourself before the external examiners, and before you know it, you are withdrawn out of the medical school, or something more terrible or things happens to you. So it's better to accept that little challenge and devise means of overcoming it than actually going to face a bigger challenge of rubbishing yourself before the examiners or getting withdrawn from the medical school. So don't put yourself in any unnecessary competition with anybody. It is about the mindset. There is no way you will be competing with somebody without putting yourself in the competitive position. So put yourself, kick yourself out of the competition and just be a neutral participant who is just aiming at success.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Anyways, due to the program structure, like I said, and the plannings, we will have to entertain two more questions and we'll end it for today. I'm so sorry for the rest of the people that have raised up their hands. So, Mr. Dushivir Zaki and Abul Khair Muhammad Ballo will will entertain the two of you and the rest maybe till other time. So, Mr. Zaki, the floor is yours. Can you please unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and ask your question? Hello, Zaki, are you there? Please unmute yourself and proceed. All right, Muhammad Bello, the floor is your. Okay, okay, you are there. No problem. You can proceed.
All right, thank you. Good evening, sir. Uh, My name is Aki V. I'm a 200 level student of Barry University, Kano. My question is, how do you fix, or how do you handle a crashing oral exam? If you have a very basic face like my own, and your lecturer cannot quite identify you, I'll speak up for you, and your Viva is crashing. There are so many things you know, just know what he's asking. How do you, I don't know, fix that from your experience with orals that you've conducted across universities in Nigeria?
Sorry, Mariam, I didn't get your question. Can you repeat it again?
Hello?
Yes, you can repeat the question again, please.
Yes. Sorry, please. I was asking how you can fix or you can control an aura that is crashing. For instance, now you have a very should I let me say basic face that your lecturer cannot quite identify you as a student or speak up for you, and your viva is crashing in such a way that maybe two three questions you will not be able to deliver, and it's just from the areas of things that you're not very strong in. There are things that you're very strong in, but you feel like if the Viva was, I don't know, guided in that direction, you'd have done better. Is there a way you can control or just maneuver a beaver that is crashing real quick so I can able to so my that I conducted in universities.
Ah,
Thank you.
I understand your question. Is a sinking candidate in an oral exam? How can he or she salvage himself? Hello,
Yes, sir.
hello. Somebody who is drowning in an oral exam, right? What are the
Yes, sir.
strategies?
Yes, sir. That's my question,
What are
sir.
the strategies for survival? Okay, if that's what you are asking, actually it all depends. It's a relative thing. If the drowning during the oral exam is actually as a result of absolute lack of information, there's nothing anyone can do about it. But if it is relative, that means one is just unlucky that the examination is tending towards one direction away from what one is very conversant with. One can actually politely say, sir, I had issues with this area, what. In fact, in most situations like this, where a candidate is actually sinking, the examiner usually comes back to what is called salvage question. Because if you see an examiner insisting on a particular question that is tough, probably the candidate is doing well. But when the going gets tough, we come back to what is called salvage question. We go to things like, we start asking the candidate, what are you comfortable with? What did you actually read? Have you read that? So if the sinking is actually out of absolute knowledge, absolute lack of knowledge, the candidate does not read much, the examiner asks, the person is looking blank, then actually there's nothing one can do about it. But usually the questions are spread in such a way that, okay, I've asked you this, you don't know, okay, let's go to embryology, and whether we like it or not, the oral exam is actually and the scope is narrow because there is no way you can be asked all the aspects of anatomy and all the topics within the 10-15 minutes you are going to interact with the external examiner. But if you are a good candidate, the issue is, if you are a good candidate, the external examiner by experience will have ways of actually extracting the information that will prove that. If you have forgotten something, he can start saying the preliminaries to those questions in order to guide you and you quickly recall the information. For example, if he says prefix, what is prefix brachial plex? What is postfix? If you actually forgot, you read it but you forgot, he starts asking you, apart from C5 to 6, is there any other pattern of formation? That means he's guiding you. But if you have never read it, you can't say you forgot. You cannot forget what you have never known. You can only forget what you read and what you have read before and you cannot recall. So if he gives you those hints and you are not still able to grasp and build on that, then it means that we are talking about absolute lack of information. So these are the one has to pray, and one must have confidence but not overconfidence. Whatever you know, you must be able to express yourself confidently. And where you feel that maybe an exam is, the scope of the exam is too narrow, he asks you ossification center, you don't know, and he goes to another thing about endochondral ossification, he goes to another everything about ossification. Sir, actually, it's been very long I read ossification. You can politely say something, okay, you didn't read, okay, let's leave that question and go to another question. And if unfortunately he asks you another thing again, sir, it's been very long. He asks you another thing, sir, it's been very long. You know, it's a problem. But if he asks two and you said very well, he may now be tempted to ask you the fourth one. And if you did very well, similar, say, okay, probably it's just those probability about which area a candidate is taking on. So I think that's the way to look at it. But the most important thing is the little you know, you must be able to express yourself confidently and politely. And if you feel that time is going and you've not said something tangible, you can politely say, sir, I've forgotten that. I think it's been long I actually read that. And usually the external examiner will take the examination from that direction to another direction. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have the last question. We are running out of time based on our program schedule. So, Abdul Khair Mohammed Bello, please. The floor is yours.
My
Thank
name
you.
is I have question. Good evening, everyone. My name is Abul Khair Muhammad Bello, 300 level student from the Federal University of Health Sciences, Azari. My question here is the speaker answered a question related to it, but it's about mental health. How, as a student, how can you manage your mental stress, and what is the role of sociality or being not isolating yourself because of one or two problems? How will that maybe affect
I have
the
question though.
mechanism of mental issues of a student in the medical college?
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Abul Khair. Probably you joined late. Before you joined, we talked about socialization, even though not from the perspective of mental health, but from the perspective of increasing one's chances of succeeding in medical school. But from the perspective of mental health, it's actually a very wide topic that probably will need a very elaborate session for that. But I'll just say one or two things. The most important precipitant of mental illness in medical school is stress. Everyone has a particular coping threshold for stress. So there's what they call hyperstress, there's what they call hypostress, and there's what they call eustress. Eustress is the normal thing that things are lectures are going, you have to go to class, you have to go to practical. This is eustress. But when you are hyperstressed, it means that the stress overwhelms you to the extent that you can't even perform your normal activities. You become sad, you become unhappy, and things like that. So when somebody realizes that those things have begun to sneak gradually into his life, the best thing is to quickly shout out. You communicate to your parents, communicate to your teachers, because those things have a very rapid way of progression. But when you communicate, they said a problem discussed is a problem half solved. So there are in the indices of stress that hyper stress or mental illness is actually sneaking into one's life. You become lethargic, lack of energy, you become disinterested, you become unhappy, you become isolated, poor sleep, always having palpitation, anxiety, restlessness. These are a few examples of things that will actually show you that most likely I'm becoming hyper stressed, and I think my mental health is becoming affected. Once you see the earliest signs of this particular monster, because it's a monster that affects so many men. We have had issues of frank medical, mental illness, psychiatric illness in medical school. But the reason is that most of them don't shout out until the thing has become overwhelming. So once you notice signs of mental sickness, it's advised that you quickly shout out and seek for help. And socialization, like we rightly said, is going to reduce the chances of one being hyper stressed, because you will see a number of students with different experience. You are going to rub minds. Though that rubbing mind has a lot of anxiolytic effect. It allays the anxiety and stuff like that. So watch out for mental illness, watch out for hyper stress. And if you see any of these signs that I have mentioned, you quickly shout out and seek help. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. Also, as we have a question for you, and actually is directed to you. Then it comes this way. So we all know you are a medical doctor, and so are the rest of our lecturers in the preclinical. And then apparently majority of you people that we know, not everyone, some are actually dedicated to the lecturing job alone. So I just, many of us are actually curious here, is that what is the inspiration that a medical doctor will uh forgo practicing and then come to only do lecturing, especially on the type of assumption that people have on lecturer, and based on what is often like heard about them, lecturers on ASU strike, lecturers complaining about non-increment of salaries, lecturers complaining about lot of things. So we understand that as doctors, even though like is always special packages in practicing and other things. What is the inspiration behind most of the lecturers joining preclinical and lecturing? And sir, especially you, knowing your track record of academic doggedness and other things that you embody, sir.
That's an interesting question. Okay. When you say gives you energy is actually individualized. But looking at it first from the professional point of view, before I come to individual, as a medical doctor, you have so many pathways by which you a career, and they are all in tandem with global standards. If you are a medical doctor, MBBS, you can decide to follow the clinical pathway, do residency, and become a clinician. And this is the most popular pathway. You can decide to go to public health, do a master's, PhD in public health, not following the residency, and you never see patients. You just specialize in policy making, community approach to community diagnosis, epidemiology, and stuff like that. You can decide to go to the residency, but not the bedside residency, to be a pathologist, to be a radiologist, to be a chemical pathologist. You just deal with samples. You never see patients. You can decide to be a pathologist, histopathologist. You only deal with bodies, autopsy, tissue slides, and stuff like that. You can decide to come back to basic medical science and pursue a career in basic medical science and become a medical doctor who is specialized in basic research. This is a global pathway also and is well recognized. So, but what matters is what gives you joy beyond what this was what people actually desire, what fantasizes people. You should ask yourself as an individual, because that will determine how much you are going to excel. If there's no passion, there's no love for what you do, definitely there is going to be problem. Now, looking at it in our own context, the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria in the last 10 years has insisted that the training of doctors must be done by doctors, because they have seen that when a doctor teaches a doctor, the extent of knowledge, the impact can never be the same as somebody who is not a doctor in basic medical science. For example, the practical life scenario that can be used to exemplify this is like somebody has been to a town and he lives in that town and is trying to describe the town for somebody who is elsewhere, and somebody who has never been to that town, but he read the address in a book and is trying to describe it to somebody who would describe it better. Who would describe it
Apparently,
better?
apparently somebody with experience, sir.
Somebody who is living in the town, right? So
Yes,
a
exactly,
medical
sir.
doctor has passed through basic medical science, he has passed through the clinical training, and he knows what best is needed in the basic medical science in order to teach the medical student. And therefore, Medical and Dental Council has insisted that doctors should come back to basic medical science in order to teach medical students. And as you can see, like you said, many of the lecturers in basic medical sciences are actually not doctors, not exactly what you said, that many all of us are doctors. Only a few of us are actually doctors, and you would see many of the students would have observed that there's a striking difference in the way we teach and the impact of the knowledge we give when you compare to those who are not doctors. So looking at the systemic benefits, this is the way to look at it, that we need doctors in the basic medical science in order to teach prospective doctors. If all those who are in the basic medical science are BSc holders, how do we emphasize on this anatomical and clinical concept that will prime the minds of doctors to be, so that when they get to the clinical side, they already have a fertile ground in order to build upon which to build the clinical practice. You understand? So this is the systemic benefit. Now, looking at it from the individual perspective, if you want to pursue a career and become a professor, or you want to become a scientist or whatever in basic medical science, and you're a medical doctor, it eases the way for you, because when you join the academia, they give you lecturer 2 instead of graduate assistant. So you just need like maybe 9, 10, 11, 12 years to rise to the rank of a professor. Unlike somebody who is not a medical doctor, who will have to rise through the ranks of graduate assistant, assistant lecturer, and all that. So looking at it holistically, everything is about passion, and it depends on what gives you joy, what gives you happiness, and what you really want to excel in. If you go into anything that you're not happy doing, definitely you will not excel. I'll give you my own life experience. When I graduated from Bayero University Kano, I had one of the best results in anatomy, and therefore I was automatically given a placement, just awaiting clearance from the Federal Character Commission. So while I was waiting for that employment, I had to join a federal medical center to keep working, at least practicing. But ab initio, I had chosen that I was coming back to basic medical science. But while I was away working in a federal medical center, I was called upon that my appointment with BUK was ready. So I came pick up the appointment and I started pursuing the career. But because I still desire to remain relevant as a physician, because I know that will still translate into the efficiency of how I teach my students, and I still want to remain relevant as a physician. After I pursued my master's, I pursued my PhD, which is the highest qualification in academia. I came back to the clinical setting, and I still specialize in a clinical specialty, anesthesiology, that gives me a middle cadre specialization that still affords me that skills and capacity to practice as a doctor and as a specialist. So this was my desire. I loved anatomy as a career, but at the same time, I had trained as a doctor, and I still want to remain relevant as a practicing physician. And alhamdulillah, I was able to achieve that. So I'm happy. And I know many doctors who have also followed my path, and they are very, very happy all over the world. If you go to UK, if you go to Canada, if you go to America, you see so many doctors that trained as doctors, but they're actually in the university or in research institutes who are working. Some people even go and join NGOs, and they never join either university or teaching hospital, or and they're happy with their lives. So do what makes you happy, and make sure that you impart positively on humanity. That is most important. Make sure you impart positively on humanity and be happy with what you are doing. And in terms of monetary gain, the scale, the pay scale between we who are in the preclinicals and those who are in the teaching hospital is the same. There is no difference. It's the same pay.
So much, sir, for the wonderful insight, especially the last statement that you made there, because that is one of the things that majority of us were curious about.
But
So,
don't be carried away by the monetary gain.
all right, sir. We won't look at
Yes,
them.
be more interested about the interest and the passion. Like I
Yes,
told
sir.
you,
It's all about passion.
there are doctors who are in community medicine. They don't see patients. They don't community medicine, and all they do is they interact with data, and they are doctors,
Wow, wow.
and they are happy. But even if it's the monetary gain you want to look at, I can assure you that at my level as an associate professor, my pay and somebody who is on the same rank in the teaching hospital is the same. There's no difference. And in addition, it's not very I have time to do other things, but when you look at it holistically, I think pay wise I am better off. I think so.
Wow, thank you so much. I think this is one of the things I have been evaluating to ask personally, and then you were in best position to
You
answer
are
it.
a money monger.
No, it's not like that, sir. It's not absolutely so. Thank you so much, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of this session tonight for this particular program. Thank you so much, Dr. Abdullahi Asuku. Thank you so much, everybody from various universities who have joined us tonight. So, on behalf of the Northwest Regional Coordinator, who actually assigned me to host this event tonight, although I can see that he is present, I'm giving the closing remark. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all. And then subsequently, we shall be having this wonderful session with other intellectuals within our reach. So thank you everybody once again, and
Thank
bye
thank you
bye.
for having me. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
All right, bye bye.
God bless you, sir.
This is my name.